what you have a passion for. You're going to do a lot of things that don't turn out. I've done a lot of things that don't turn out, but you just call that a learning experience. But I started out as a self-taught painter. I remain a self-taught painter. I say I'm taught really by my students because a lot of times my students will come to me with a certain problem, and I've never seen this before, so we together work out these problems, and we both learn from that. So I've taught for over 20 years, and so I think I will give my students really credit for helping me out in this profession. Early on, I like some people who are from Jacksonville will know John McKeever. Do anybody remember John McKeever? He was a wonderful guy, and he, I took a class from him when the old Jacksonville Art Museum was in a vacant A&P store near, or I don't know if he remembers that, but he took me under his wing, and I was young, and he was about in his 30s probably, and I would go to his little studio over on the other side of the river, and I would watch him paint, and he really taught me so much. He also gave me some confidence that I don't think I would have gotten without him. I sat on the floor and watched him paint, and I thought, if I ever learn how to do this, I'm gonna be an artist. I'm gonna be a painter. I'm gonna teach art, and that's what I've done. So it's been a wonderful journey. I started out, and there was a time in my life where I had to have a little job. I had to have because it's very difficult, as I'm sure you all know, to make a living at this. So right after a divorce, I didn't have any money, so I decided I knew I had to have a job. So I became a illustrator, and I was an illustrator for a plumbing magazine. So they would bring something up from the warehouse, or a hammer or something, or a pair of pliers, and I would paint this thing. Did it all day long, and so that really taught me a lot about how to do that type of art. I was an illustrator. I was art director. I was an illustrator there. I was art director at Sally Animation, and so I learned how to do robots. So that really gave me a sense of three-dimensional work because we had all these fun materials to work with, all kind of silicones and other things that were not very healthy to work with. But that was a fun experience. It was the craziest job ever. I remember one Thanksgiving. The day before Thanksgiving, I was alone in this huge place with 40 Santa Clauses, all staring at me. So it was. I worked hard, but it was a journey for sure. But I've had other jobs too. I was working at May Cohen's. You all probably remember that as a in-store display artist, and that was fun. So all of these things sort of make us in our journeys. It kind of makes us not only what we are today, but the kind of artists we are. But I started teaching at Jacksonville Art Museum when John McKeever left. I took over his classes, and I've been teaching ever since. And I teach at Ready Arts. We have a new store. We're opening in a couple of months on Main Street. It's wonderful. We saw it a few days ago. It's this gigantic, big room. It's in the old Woolworths building. It's really going to be a nice spot with a good classroom. So if anybody's interested in classes, you can sign up. I've got some paper here somewhere with when you can put your name on it. You can call me. You can find me on the internet. I have gone out, as Helen said, I paint what I love. And if you paint what you love, you can do a pretty good job. You have to know it too. If you love horses, you got to look at a horse, because if you don't do that, you're going to have a goofy looking animal. You really have to know what you're doing. So you got to know it, and as I said, I have thrown away about 2 out of every 3 pictures I start because they're not going the right direction. It's not good to keep things around that remind you of your failures, but you really have learned from these things. But I'm going to start with this slideshow. This one here is, this was a picture that I took. I always worked from my own photography, and I've gone out with Jim Draper a lot for years, and we we kayaked in almost every river around here, and we took a lot of pictures together. But this was a picture I took, I guess in south of Ponte Vedra, and it was a gray afternoon, so I added this color to it. Let me see here. If you have any questions too. The size of these are fairly large usually. I also like to do small things because I am a professional artist, and I like to be able to have people, if they can't afford a large piece or they want to put something small, a lot of people would rather have a small piece of work. So I cover the whole gamut, you know, and I really kind of try to paint towards what people like to buy. But this one is large, and I don't know what happened to that picture. This, by the way, I want to thank Pablo Rivera for putting together this show for me, because I'm technically, I try to blame it on my dyslexia and being an artist, but there are a lot of people who are artists and dyslexic that are technical people. So anyway, this is a tall picture. This was taken from a reference picture I took on Phillips Highway, so you don't have to go to Amazon to get good.
Wow.
Good. It's just, and this is all changed around. This is a pretty large picture. I still own this picture. It hasn't sold yet. Maybe it'll sell one day. But there are often giclées of some of these. This is the one here. This is called Aloe Medusa. And I like that one. I think it scared people. It didn't sell for a while. I think people think it looked like some monster or something. But I own that one. I have that one. That's one of the few I keep. I can't afford my own work, really. But this reference picture was taken at Fairchild Gardens in Miami, if you're familiar with that. I love botanical gardens, and there was this little small squirrely-looking aloe plant about this tall, so I just enlarged it hugely and added that color to it. So if you really have the opportunity to change your pictures, I change every one of them I do. If it's not working for you, you have to remember that you're in charge of this image and you can change it any way you want. And the reason I do acrylic is because I can mess up and then I can put it back. And it worked out better for me to do that. This one was really, I took that picture at Black Creek, and I kept throwing pine cones. I was in my kayak, and I kept throwing pine cones and little sticks in the water until I got the reflection just in that wonderful abstract shape. All your paintings really are abstract paintings that represent a real thing if you paint realism. So you come from an abstract perspective when you're painting, and this had to be, you really can't paint a reflection like this unless you have a still picture of it, because it's movement. It's like a running horse. You're just gonna have to have a picture of it because you really can't see it. It moves too fast. But that one was done a while ago. And this is called, I'm sorry about this slide, this is called Blowing Grass. And this again is a little clump of grass about, I'm sorry?
Is it sawgrass?
No, it's not sawgrass, it's lemongrass. But I changed this around too. I mean, I made it very large because I like the detail. I like the interesting little subjects of nature that people overlook, the little uncelebrated, unhonored parts of nature that are there all under our feet all the time. But that one is owned by somebody at the beach. I saw it about a month ago, their house. And that was hard to do because I had to get all those lines, and they had to make sense. They had to go over and under the right thing. So that was sort of a meditative thing there. That was a painting I put away. I did it about 10 years ago, and it wasn't right. So I put it aside. I knew it had some good features about it. So I put it away, and again, it's got that wonderful reflection in it. And I pull it out. It had a very complicated background to it. It had a lot of stuff in the background. So I figured it needed less complicated stuff in it. So I put that sky in the background. So this is what you can do with acrylic. You can paint over it and do all those things, change things around. Also added that tree in the back, that tree that comes out this way. So I just love the cypress trees. They're magical. This is actually a much longer picture. It's big too. Think of it here. It's a long picture, and it was tricky getting those sand waves in there. I drew it on there with blue pencil, and I erased it, and I put it back and erased it, and did it about 4 or 5 times. It's about twice as long as that. I have a sheet clay of that as well. But that is early morning at a sand dune on Cumberland Island. You have to really get up out of your bed sometime and go look at the light. It's worth it, believe me. I like to photograph my work early in the morning, more late in the afternoon. There is a golden light that occurs. I see you all agree with that. There's this beautiful light that happens in the early morning that's magic, and everything in the afternoon that is magic. The world is going to sleep. In the morning, it's blue and it's cool. And that was a morning shot there from a morning picture. But that was fun to do. A little bit of detail in the back there is kind of hard to see it. This is something called Fern Garden. This was a picture I took on Mandarin Road. I think it's still a vacant lot. You know where those big trees are in the middle of the road? It's right past that. It was a vacant lot. And I worked on that about a year, I think. It wasn't going the right direction, so I put it aside and came back to it. I took a lot of stuff out. I've done that to a lot of my pictures. When you overpaint things, it gets too complicated. You have one message to say with a picture, and if you start putting all these little extra things in there, I'm speaking for myself, it may not work for other people, but simplicity is the main thing. You want to say one thing with your art as far as the design goes. This one, that's a lake. Let me see. That was Palestine Lake, I think. I went there with Jim Draper, and I took that picture in the middle of the day. There was no sunset back there, but I didn't really change that too much except for the color of the sky. But the reflection is, again, I love reflection, and it's a beautiful lake if you ever want to go to some place that's really far away from a lot of people. And it's a good place to launch your kayaks and canoes there. Or you just sit and look at the lake. It's beautiful. So I added the sky, and you have to be careful when you're putting orange next to blue, because those are different colors and they get brown if they get mixed the wrong way. With acrylic paint, you can put layers, you can put glazes and lots of transparent layers over things. I mix my acrylic with regular interior latex house paint sometime, and it gives it a smoother look. When I'm doing a very large piece, I'm doing a big sky. It's perfectly fine. It has a very high archival rate. It's perfectly fine to do that, and it has a good feel to it. I kind of like that. This one, it's an older picture, but I did that. That's also, I think that's at either Palestine Lake or Ocean Pond, one of those places. But it looked a little lonely, so I put a bird in it, which it really changed the whole mood of the thing and just made it a little bit different. When you put a different animal or some sort of evidence of human beings, like a chair in the woods, something like that, a little bench in the woods or the park, it just makes this evidence of human beings be there or animals in that case. This is a tiny little picture. I sold that finally to a friend of mine because I knew it was like adopting a kitten. I just wanted to go to a good place. But a friend of mine bought it, who lives out of town, but it was a tiny little picture. It was one of the first pictures I did that I thought was successful, and it must have been 30 years old. I've had it forever. It's only about 12 inches, but it was a very simple picture. That one also I changed as well.
And there's a moon in there.
There's a moon in there, exactly. That makes a difference too.
Yeah.
I just got a picture from a friend of mine